2017 starts with a fresh start in Wilmington city government. New Mayor Mike Purzycki sets the tone for the next 4 years. Meanwhile, Jack Markell reflects on his time as the top person in Delaware government. All of this comes as the Electoral College makes it official. Donald Trump is the 45th President of the United States. First, your public media news magazine starts now. Don't adjust your sets. This is not our first studio. We're in Washington, D.C. this week. Vice President Joe Biden sat down with First to talk about his incredible career and its connections to Delaware. Hello, I'm Mark Eichman along with Nichelle Polston and Shirley Min.
And Mark, we'll talk about the Vice President a little bit later, but first we have our Delaware stories to tell. And we begin with Nichelle and a new beginning for Wilmington city government.
Thanks, guys. Some are calling it a new era in the city of Wilmington as a new administration takes over the city, along with a few first-timers on city council. This week's First Look, we'll hear from Mayor Mike Purzycki as he prepares to run the city differently.
Mayor Purzycki has a job ahead of him, but I think he's the man for it.
I think he's got the right idea of trying to lift everybody up.
Anybody's not excited about the direction of the city, they're just not on board.
Over the next 4 years, you can now call him mayor.
We must embrace the idea that we are all in this together, each and every city department. If we want to have pride in our work and in each other, we have to think of ourselves as family.
And
the city charter, so help me God.
Mike Purzycki was officially sworn in to represent the city of Wilmington.
All the things he said, gosh, I hope we can do it. I've lived in Wilmington 26 years. I hope we can do it.
You know, I think I'm a pretty driven person. I've got very high aspirations. I'm doing this at this point in my life because I think I'm motivated by all the right motivations. That is, I really want to see our city improve.
Mayor Purzycki spent at least 20 years improving part of the city. Now is on to a new chapter that requires a different approach.
It's a $150 million operating business with 1,100 employees. You know, it's a big operation, and there are a lot of things in each one of these departments that we just simply aren't familiar with yet.
So first things first, says the mayor.
The first thing I want to do is do a full assessment of all of our departments, one that we feel confident in.
Purzycki isn't the only one with work to do. He's joined by some new city council members who will be transitioning into new roles as well.
You know, I've met and I know personally some of the members of council. I'm very, very impressed, and I think that they all seem to be have the same kind of idealistic view about what can be accomplished. So I think we have a lot in common, and I never thought about it that way, as that we're all new, but I think that we've interacted very respectfully, and I think that augurs well for a relationship in the future.
According to the mayor, despite the transition period, he's still interviewing people for leadership roles and making some important decisions.
We have so many decisions we have to make, and at the very same time we're processing all the information that we're inputting about the various departments that we're hearing from.
Mayor Purzycki isn't going to rush that process. He says it's important to get it right the first time.
But there are a lot of things that I know will bear investigating, and there are things that will change. And so before I go jumping out front with some big ideas, I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about.
During Mayor Purzycki's speech, he talked about cleaning up blight in the city and, of course, public safety, basically changes that will continue to push Wilmington in the right direction.
Friday, January 6th, the Electoral College vote was finalized, making Donald Trump the 45th President of the United States beginning January 20th. But the process of the Electoral College vote began December 19th in every U.S. state capital. Last month, WHYY collaborated with the University of Delaware and the state to show children in Delaware how the process works in a live web feed.
I'm the chairperson. I'm Margaret Lynn Fuller, and I volunteer to serve as chairperson of this electoral delegation. You agree? You agree?
I agree.
Yes. Secretary?
I'm Lydia York. I volunteer to serve as secretary of this electoral delegation.
And I agree.
I agree.
Madam Secretary, please present the electors with the certificate a vote. I think you sign it first. Oh, well, no, I do the three.
Okay.
We're learning here.
I'm voting 3 for Hillary Clinton and 3 for Timothy Kane. And then I sign.
The documents were signed. Then it came time to discuss the vote.
I now invite the electors to make closing remarks if they so wish, starting with Linda.
Well, I can't talk very well, so I'll keep this short. I just consider this a tremendous honor to be able to have cast my vote for Hillary Clinton for president. I'm quite disappointed at the results of the election, but we need to accept it. And I'm just honored to fulfill my constitutional duty as an elector.
Lydia?
I too am honored to be here today, casting a vote here in the state of Delaware for Hillary Rodham Clinton. While I am too disappointed in the result, I do remain hopeful that one day in my lifetime, and perhaps someone in this room, will be either sitting here signing these papers for another woman or in fact being elected out of these proceedings.
And I'm privileged and honored to be sitting here casting these votes for wishful President Hillary Clinton. And I too wish the best for our president-elect, and I hope you all have enjoyed this proceeding, and I have.
At the end of our live stream, students asked questions.
Megan Kirker, she's a 5th grader representing Brandywine Springs School.
Hi, my question is, what would happen if between the ceremony of when the electors officially cast their votes and the president-elect's inauguration, the president-elect becomes unable to serve?
That's a great question for a 5th grader. Good job. I just found out I taught her mother at one point in time, which is kind of interesting. So the answer is very explicit in the Constitution. The 20th Amendment, Section 3, stipulates that in the event that an individual is unable for whatever reason to serve, that the vice president-elect steps up and becomes the president-elect candidate.
If you want to see our webcast from December 19th, go to video.whyy.org. Search Delaware Electoral College. Ironically, Vice President Joe Biden presided over the session that authorized the vote. We'll hear from the Vice President in 10 minutes.
Coming up on First, it's the celebration of a championship Delaware team. The girls field hockey team at the University of Delaware celebrates with the Vice President. And a Lewis artist shows off the influences of her native Spain later on First Experience.
As Governor-elect John Carney prepares to take office later this month, we sat down with outgoing Governor Jack Markell to take a look back at his 8 years in office in a series of interviews. Here's a portion of those conversations.
You know, when you came into office, the country was in a recession. You faced an $800+ million deficit here in the state. Asking you to draw the curtain back a little bit. When you first went into office, was there sort of this war room setting where you met with the people who you were going to be working with over the next 8 years, going over kind of next steps?
We really were just trying to figure it out. I mean, there was nothing historically that we could fall back on to say, how do you solve a budget shortfall of $800 million? That was in the context of a $3 billion budget. How do you deal with the state losing more than 30,000 jobs in a year and a half, with the unemployment rate more than doubling in that same time period? It was brutal, but I'm really proud of the progress that we have made since then. Our job growth has been by far the best in the region for the last year, the last 2 years, the last 6 years, much better than the national average. Our wage growth has been best in the country for the last couple of years for private sector wages. So we've made a lot of progress, but obviously there's more to do, but considering where we were, back in January of 2009. We've come a long way.
I want to switch gears one more time, talk about your mindset at the time of this civil union legislation when that passed. Walk us through that.
Well, I mean, for me, this is really pretty straightforward. We live in a world where we're trying to build an economy around the greatest talent, because employers and entrepreneurs can only be successful these days if they're able to recruit the greatest talent. And the greatest talent comes in every form. And great talent comes whether you're black, white, Hispanic, or Asian, whether you're male or female, whether you're young or old, whether you started out poor or started out rich. And great talent comes in straight, gay, and everything else. And so, you know, a big part of, from my view, is we had to demonstrate that we are a welcoming community. And because we want people with great talents, no matter you know, anything in their background or their personal religion or anything else, we want them to say, Delaware is a place that I want to be, because then we think it's a great way of building an entire, not only economy, but a community.
It's certainly involved into gay marriage eventually. Can these legislations be rolled back?
I don't think they will.
Okay.
I mean, I guess they could, but I think, you know, this is such a generational issue that I really think that would be unlikely harmful. I mean, you see what's been going on with the controversy in North Carolina, where, you know, businesses either saying we're not going to continue to invest, we may pull out. How does that make any sense? And what threat is it to anybody else, what somebody else's sexual orientation is? The whole thing, frankly, I think we're going to look back 10 years from now and say, I can't believe that that's the way that it was.
And I guess it's just kind of the nature of the job that no matter, despite all that progress, there's still, oh, I wish we could have done this, I wish we could have done that, and other things sort of left on the table that you just didn't get time to and didn't, weren't able to get accomplished.
No question. You know, certainly I wish that we had made progress in cleaning up the state's water. We didn't make progress on that. There's lots to be done on the budget. I think the next governor, next General Assembly, we tried to tackle some of the big issues on the budget. We made some progress. We're down 5% in terms of state employees. But, you know, the truth is, if you look at some of the big issues around healthcare spending, still progress to be made. And we tried last year.
Right. I
literally couldn't even get a bill introduced. So we have to do more.
So we're out here on the bikes a little south of Port Penn here on Route 9. And you've made biking obviously a very big part of your push for improving the state and improving conditions for visitors and residents. And you were just honored with a trail in your name, sort of south of Wilmington. Talk a little bit about what that is like and kind of what that means for you to have that kind of cement your legacy as supporting biking.
Well, it's less about me. It's more about the fact that we know, from an economic development perspective, you know, talented people want to work in places where they want to live, and so they love being outdoors. And so I think the investments we've made in state parks and our trails and pathways have been very important. It's also good for the environment, because I think particularly with this new trail that you mentioned, which will be open in 2018 between Wilmington and historic Newcastle, get people off the roads much safer. They can commute to work. It's good to get people outside for reasons of health. And so I think it's a real win-win-win. And I think these investments generally in quality of life, the same thing applies to the arts. Same thing applies to libraries. These are investments that government, and really government's uniquely positioned to make. And I think it just makes Delaware a better place to live and to visit.
Some of the other highlights of your time in office, you know, the Star Campus, bringing the Delaware City Refinery back online. Looking back now, do you now see Fisker as this sort of black eye on your record?
Well, I mean, it certainly didn't work out the way I had intended, but I mean...
Because at the time, even though the cards were on the table, no one was really willing to say just yet and throw in the towel.
Yeah.
But looking back now...
Well, sure, but I mean, the bottom line, first of all, at the time, they were by far the best chance we had to get anybody operating in that factory. I mean, I literally, when General Motors announced that they were closing, I called the CEO of virtually every car company in the world. And there wasn't, I mean, this is a time that the number of cars being produced in this country was shrinking from like 16 million to 10 million. There was nobody investing anywhere. Yeah. And so this was a company that had raised close to $1 billion by the time they were done. So that didn't work out, but you know, you don't bat 1,000. I didn't bat 1,000. I never expected that I would bat 1,000. But if you look at the totality, best job growth in the region, one of the best in the country. Gallup says we went from one of the 10 worst economies in 2009 to one of the 4 best by 2015. Other studies saying that we have one of the best economies in the country. Look at the totality, you say, boy, that's pretty good progress.
What do you think the next is for yourself?
I don't know. I think my guess is I'll probably take a little time to figure that out. I've talked to other governors who, you know, finished their time, and I think it's a pretty difficult transition for many of them. So I don't know. I mean, Carl and I plan to stay in our house. We love where we live. This is our community, and you know, we love Delaware. So I don't know. I'm fortunate. I've really loved being governor. I really enjoyed my time in the private sector before that. So I want to hopefully have a chance to continue. Maybe I'm going to be a truck driver. There seems to be a good...
There's plenty of them around here, though.
So I don't know. I think hopefully I'll have good opportunities, and we'll take it from there. I'm not too worried about it, though. I think I'll figure something out.
You certainly not ruling out another position in politics or vying for election for something else, or...
I'm not ruling anything out, but it's not really top of mind now either. I never set out to be a career politician. I've loved it, but I think it'll be just, you know, not being in public office is it can be a great life too.
These interviews will be part of 2 special programs we put together as First Extras. The first will air on January 11th at 5:30 and 11 p.m. The second will also air at 5:30 and 11 p.m. on January 12th, right here on WHYY-TV.
If you can't watch the program on television, then watch it online. Those broadcasts, along with all the First programs, can be found at WHYY.org/first. Click on it when you want and tell us what you think.
We've been broadcasting this week's First from Washington, D.C., inside the office of the Vice President. Why? We're sitting down with Vice President Joe Biden on his time in public service.
The Vice President was known as Joe around Delaware. As you know, he was a senator from the first state for 36 years. And of course, he has a lot of stories.
I remember going home and talking to my deceased wife. She said, Joe, you should either get all the way in or all the way out. You're building a law firm, either get all the way in or all the way out. So we spent a lot of time with my sister, my wife, and my brother, and decided what the hell. I was confident I could run a race that I wouldn't embarrass myself. I felt very strongly about the war in Vietnam. I felt very strong about finishing the civil rights movement. I felt very strongly about the women's issues and environmental issues. So that's what I ran a campaign on.
When you won, were you surprised?
I guess I should say I was, but I wasn't. I wouldn't have been surprised had I lost, but I wasn't surprised that I won. As a matter of fact, about 10 days, I think it was 2 Sundays before Election Day in 1972, the Wilmington News Journal, I think the first poll they did of me, and it showed was a 1-point race.
36 years in the Senate. 8 years in the White House. I mean, you've had a very long tenured career in public service, and it's going to be done shortly. Well, has that sort of settled in?
Yeah, no, it really hasn't. I'm not going to. I'm not going to go away. What I'm attempting to do is, look. My dad used to have an expression. He said, "It's a lucky person gets up in the morning, puts both feet in the floor, knows what they're about to do, and thinks it still matters." My entire adult life, I've worked on issues that matter to me deeply, from violence against women to ending the war in Afghanistan. And I have some incredibly qualified staff, and so I'm going to be associated with a couple universities when I leave here. My heart is with Delaware and with the university, my alma mater, which I plan on, if it works out, to be associated with them and be on campus frequently, and bringing along some consequential staff on domestic policy, and the University of Pennsylvania on international diplomacy and foreign policy.
All this took place on Wednesday, and it was a big day for Delaware connections. In addition to fitting us into his schedule, Biden took time out to celebrate the NCAA championship-winning University of Delaware field hockey team. That event took place at the Vice President's residence.
I'm really so proud of you.
For more than 2 hours, the University of Delaware field hockey team met with Biden and his official D.C. residence to celebrate their championship. For players and coaches alike, the night was a perfect cap to their championship season.
I mean, we never doubted that we could do it, but we definitely wouldn't. If you told me this 6 months ago, I probably wouldn't have believed you. And to be invited here, I mean, we had no idea, but it was just a huge surprise. And it's one of those things you kind of dream about, but it's pretty unreal to be here.
It's just, wow, it's hard to describe in words, but it's an experience that you will cherish for the rest of your lives, and it shows how special this group has been.
It just kind of shows what hard work can do for you, too, because we worked so hard for it, and now just to be able to be recognized, especially from Delaware, a little tiny state, nobody even knows where it is, so being able to have it put on the map and meet the vice president's the best feeling.
Biden urged the team to ask him anything they wanted, which included questions about his popularity in internet memes.
I'm amazed. I go online and I see there's like 90 different pictures. With regard to the memes, some of them are funny. And, most of them are humorous, and if you can't, in my business, learn to laugh at yourself. You shouldn't be in this business.
Other questions were a bit more serious.
What are your plans for the new year?
My plans for the new year is hopefully I'm going to go and be on campus with you guys for a while. My heart and my loyalty are with my alma mater, the University of Delaware.
UD President Dennis Asanas says he's excited for what Biden can bring to UD.
Vice President's heart belongs to the University of Delaware and to the state of Delaware. Emotionally, there is that connection, and we're working very hard to make that emotional connection a real connection. We obviously like to involve him within the university as much as his time allows.
For the team, celebrating at the Vice President's residence was a night to remember.
I never thought to think that we would win a national championship. Like, that was just so crazy, and now we're at the Vice President's house, and it's just kind of like all hitting us all at once, but it's really exciting.
Some fun University of Delaware sports trivia for you. This is the first team since 2003 to win a national championship. That year, it was the football team that won it all. And the field hockey team won 19 games in a row this season, going all the way back from September through the championship game.
As we wrap up this week's First, we head to Lewis. That's where we find artist Aina Nergard-Namek. She was born in Spain, and painting is her life. She works in abstracts, colors, and shapes. First Experience shows off her work while we talk about her life.
I started painting a long time ago. Both my mother and grandmother were painters. And I went to school in Spain, where I was born. I left for the States because I married a person from the United States. And here we are. I have done landscapes and a few figures through the years, but I always go back to the abstraction of things. Many people I know, many artists, they plan, I don't plan. The only thing I decide before I paint anything is the colors I am going to use. I use very few colors. My palette has maybe 5 things. I mix them while I am working. And many people say, no, you can't mix it in acrylics because they dry too fast. Well, I work fast, so that I can do it. At the beginning, I do very, very big brushes. But then I am very careful because if you keep going and going and going without thinking, then you mess it up. So I do a few big brushes, then I come back here and then I look at it and I see how it is working. But I never know what the finished work will be. My only concern are the forms, because that's what they are. Colors and shapes, that's the only thing. I do 5 hours a day. Now that I have time, I try to paint first thing in the morning so that it is done and I am fresh. For the last 2 years, I have been doing something with music. I call it fragments of classical music. I don't even think, I just do it while I am listening to that music. The time goes so fast. I am not thinking of anything. Well, I am thinking about the music. I enjoy it. I just do it when it is nice, I stop. When I go to bed and I have painted and I am very happy. It is a perfect life.
Aina will have a solo show for her work at the Biggs Museum in Dover in 2018. But if you can't wait that long, go to her website, check out some information about her as well as studio tours at nairgard-namic.com.
Next week on First, we think this is one of the best pictures of 2016. And while Star Wars was the theme, it serves to tell the bigger story of foster care. And American Ninja Warrior tells the story of physical therapy.
But the physical therapist from Delaware ran out of gas at Rolling Thunder.
One more piece of Delaware news to pass along from Washington. Lisa Blunt Rochester was sworn in as Delaware's representative in Congress. There were a lot of well-wishers to support her on Tuesday.
You know, you represent all of Delaware. You represent the pet owners. You're everybody. We're everybody. And so when Lisa goes to Washington, we all go to Washington.
You'll be hearing from Congresswoman Blunt Rochester in a few weeks on First. That is First for this week from the Vice President's Ceremonial Room. For Shirley Min and Mark Eichman, I'm Nichelle Polston. Have a great week.
23-2, 19 straight. And you lost to Princeton, then came back and showed them what you learned, right? Well, that's pretty damn good, I tell you. And you beat six. How many times were they national champions? 6 times national champions, 19 times in the finals, and you beat them.